Have you been craving some homebrew content lately?
Well, we've got a supplement that'll satisfy that craving.
Today we're looking at the Monster Menu by Dave Panfilo.
Welcome to the Homebrew Crew. I'm Tony, this is Sean, and today we are going over the Monster Menu by Dave Panfilo.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. We always have that party member that wants to go out and eat everything, go to all the taverns and have all these nice meals. We also have some party members that kind of want to try more exotic dishes, and this is basically what it's going to do for your homebrew campaign.
Yeah, everybody has that player that always harvests some piece of meat or something and then asks you the question halfway through the session, well, what happens when I eat it? And you normally go, nothing. It tastes horrible or it tastes great, but it doesn't give them any benefit. This supplement actually gives you all the different things that you can do with those and has some really great artwork and tasty recipes.
Yeah, there are actually more than 100 different meals that you can find, giving you a full list as to how the mechanic works, what kind of things will happen if you eat it, even with a couple magical items and game mechanics at the end as well. So it's really chock full of stuff, and we should just go take a look and see what we got inside.
Yeah, we pulled 5 recipes from this. Let's take a look. Okay, and here we are. This is the Monster Menu by Dave Panfilo, and let's just admire the artwork here for a second, because this is one of the more beautifully done ones that I've seen.
Yeah, cover is a really nice eye grabber, and as you'll see with the other photos and pictures in here, there's really good use of color and artwork to really kind of like nail the mood of the food. So
now I wanted to mention we're going to show you little recipe cards in this.
Yes,
and it's just because we wanted to take the actual item and put them next to the image that there was. This is not how the book will be. There are 26 pages of this. It is really, really great. But we thought you would really love seeing the awesome artwork along with it.
It's a bit of homebrew on our end too, if anything. So.
Yeah, I hope Dave's not upset.
I hope so.
But we're going to start with the Balor Heart.
Yeah, so as you can already tell, this is going to be the heart of a demon itself. The descriptions are great here. The sulfurous heart of a Balor Lord still beats every last ounce of its once it's destroyed. It burns careless fingers and sears careless tongues.
It's a spicy meatball.
Yeah, very much so. So the way that this is kind of set up is that you're going to get a description of what that actual food is, as well as benefits, downsides, the serving size, and a skill check.
Right, so every single time, so you have to be proficient in cook's utensils in order to use this. Mm-hmm. So you would make a check with that. If you get 5 higher than what the DC of the check is, then you only get the benefits. If you get the DC on that, you're getting the downsides and the benefits. And if you get lower than the DC on that, then you're just getting the downside. So there are a couple little mechanics that get added into this where if somebody else is skilled in cook's tools, they can help you. Mm-hmm. And there's also little things on there to check and see whether or not you can find out what the benefits or downsides are going to be before you start cooking it. So you can kind of decide how you want to do that.
Yeah, it's really nice because it actually kind of covers a different array of all the skills that are included in the book, and depending on how difficult it was to kill that creature, or depending on the CR level, it's going to make it even harder to try and identify what the benefits and what the downside is. Balor Heart is pretty tricky. You need to do a Religion 21 to actually figure out what the benefits and downsides are, but this one's really interesting. Mm-hmm. For example, the benefit is you gain immunity to fire damage for the next week. For the first 24 hours, you also gain a fire aura. So basically at the start of your turn, each creature within 5 feet takes 3d6 fire damage. Any creature that hits you with a melee attack in that aura is going to take also the same 3d6 fire damage, but of course there are downsides to these meals as well.
Well, that benefit with the fire aura sounds like that time I had that mega burrito from...
Yes.
Yeah, so, there's benefits and downsides.
Right, you don't want to touch Tony after having one of those burritos, yeah.
But then for the next 7 days on the downside with it, you explode when reduced to 0 hit points. That also happened. This instantly kills and disintegrates you. Each creature within 30 feet of you must make a DC 20 dex save, taking 20 d6 fire damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one, unless magically chilled. This meal deals 3d6 fire damage to you before the benefit kicks in.
Yeah, so one thing that you'll note is that if the creature itself was a high CR, you're going to expect the benefits and the downsides to reflect that same difficulty. This is a really intense downside, but the benefits are pretty good too, so you're going to see that reflected for the other items, but really cool one.
Now, there's always room for Jell-O.
Of course.
So we're going to go over the gelatinous cube preserves.
Yeah, this one's great. Like melted horse hooves combined with a fruit sugar, a gelatinous cube can at least be neatly cut into whatever portions don't discombobulate upon death, unlike its firm cousins. For 8 hours, you and everything you're wearing are transparent. Even when in plain sight, it takes a successful DC 15 Wisdom or Perception check to spot if you haven't moved, attacked, or cast a spell on your most recent turn. The downside being for 8 hours, you actually have disadvantage on any saving throw against slipping, sliding, or forced movement.
It happens when you eat Jell-O. Things get a little bit jiggly.
Yeah, I feel it more loose. You know? That's very reasonable. Yeah,
and I love some of these things with it. It's a finger with a ring in it. I think I found that in my Jell-O once at this restaurant. But it's, I kind of love the idea with it. The whole, here's a little bit of a gelatinous cube.
Yeah,
and it's kind of cool with that.
Yeah, it's great. Oftentimes you're going to see a lot of these features reflect that creature that you may have had to slay or fight that kind of get reflected in the food itself.
Right. All right. Who doesn't like well, these aren't deviled eggs. These are rock eggs. And I just want to point out the sheer size of it. I know we're looking at these things, and each one is the same size on the cards that we're doing, but that is an axe, that is a shovel, and that is a pigeon on top of the egg.
Yeah, not to mention, it doesn't even fit in the cauldron that it's currently sitting on.
It's like a little egg cup.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But it's, gigantic.
Yeah. So this one's really simple. Again, it's an egg of a rock. A rock is a humongous flying creature that you may have seen in your D&D campaign. For the next 7 days, you gain a flying speed of 60 feet, which can only be used to glide. You descend at least 10 feet on any round when you fly in this way and cannot descend. The downside is for a day, you have disadvantage on saving throws while you are adjacent to an ally. I really like this because if you actually read the lore of a rock, they're solitary creatures. They don't like being around other things. So it's actually kind of cool how they fitted it in as a downside, but really cool one.
Yeah, and you'll find that every single one here, whether it's got a picture or not, is really well themed to the monster that was there. I think it's great. All right, now, this one's good. This was popular in the 70s. Manticore Fondue.
Oh, boy. And you know what's funny? I never really had to think about that bulbous end of the manticore tail that has all the spikes. This is a really interesting way to think about it. It actually does say the interior of a manticore tail is marbled with dark orange fat, rich as a peasant with a hint of acidity. Make sure not to undercook it. The spines may emerge from the wrong locations. Really cool benefit. You gain a smattering of horrible spines growing along your shoulders and back. The next time you are hit with a melee attack, the creature attacking you takes 3d12 piercing damage. However, the downside is you take 1d12 piercing damage when the spines first burst from your flesh after the meal.
Now that sounds kind of dangerous.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of eating a sea urchin.
Yeah,
it's very similar to that. But I really like the idea, and just that spiked shield kind of thing, the piercing stuff, really plays well into the Manticore. Some of these are look. That doesn't look delicious though.
That look pretty good.
Just like I want to eat that.
Yeah, and again, a Manticore actually is a little lower on the CR scale, so this is a pretty minor thing. But again, if you're getting this at a lower level, this is actually a really nice little benefit, very defensive.
Now, we've got one more to look at here, and this is my personal favorite. Yes. This is the Fairy Dragon Fried. These mischievous drakes curl up when cooked, like shrimp.
Yeah.
And turn in every shade as the oil slicks to do. Fairy dragons taste inexplicably like candied mustard, making for a diverse, savory experience. Now, the benefit of this is once during the next 3 days, you become invisible for 3 hours, or until your concentration ends on a spell, whichever comes first. However, the downside, Sean, is
the Dungeon Master gets to decide when you turn invisible for those next 3 days. So for the next 72 hours, you'll constantly be thinking about when you'll actually turn invisible. I actually really like this. I like this dynamic where the DM kind of controls a little bit as to what the downside is. And really interesting. Again, kind of taking what we know as a fairy dragon, the NPC, implementing that characteristic into the food itself. And hopefully you're not too saddened by the picture, but it does look kind of tasty, though.
It does look tasty.
Yeah.
I'm a little... Yeah. Let's have some fairy dragon, shall we? All right, so if you want to pick this one up, you can find it on the DMsGuild. That's, again, the Monster Menu by Dave Panfilo. You can find it on there. We'll leave a link in the description below, as always.
Yeah, and not to mention, there are a couple of magical items and some different mechanics you can toss in case you want to change up the rules a little bit. There's even like a magical like fork kind of thing. There's magical dishes you can serve these meals on, and it does add mechanics in case you want to make these feel like more like a gamey kind of item and thing like that. But it's a really good example as how you can take, again, a function that we may have seen in other games about like making food and making meals and implementing them into 5e.
It also pairs well with a nice Merlot. So either way, go ahead and pick this one up. We highly recommend it. Dave Panfilo does some great work. You should definitely check this one out.
Yes.
Now, we've got some new stuff coming up here in the next week or so. We're going to do a couple more of our roundups that are happening with that. So if you've got something that you've created that you'd like us to feature on the channel, or at least take a look at and give you a few pointers with, go ahead and send it to us at dmbrewcrew@gmail.com.
Yep. And remember, the best campaigns are always the ones that you homebrew. So until next time, keep brewing.